So that's good.
Okay, and then we have our alternate, our new
I
alternate.
don't think she's responded either, unless she's on. Oh, she's on.
She's on.
Anna's here.
So that's good.
Hello.
I should have looked
Hi.
instead of asked. My
Our
problem was I
alternate.
asked. I should have done that. Hi, Anna. How are you?
Good, how are
Good. I'm glad you finally made it.
you? Yeah, I'm excited.
Took a while, didn't it?
Do we turn on videos for this or?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Hello.
Hi. So we're waiting on John and Lee. Well, that's great. We'll have lots of people. So it's John and Lee, right?
Correct.
Okay. Are they stuck in the other room? I can't see the other room.
Brought John over,
Great.
but that's it.
Yeah, John. I see John.
All right. Well, we'll wait another minute. Lee's usually on time. And then we can get going because that'll give us quorum.
Yeah.
And we'll have quorum. Well, I don't know. What do you think?
I think
Oh.
we can just add him.
He just texted. He's having problems with his computer. He said he's going to be a few minutes late.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So he said, fine to start. So I'd like to open our June 6th, 2022 meeting of the Inland Wetlands Agency at 7:03 p.m. I I think agency members, if you can put your video on. That'd be helpful, I'm sure, for people watching at home or online right now. Also at home, online. So our first regular meeting agenda item is application 22-15, 17 Caramel Court. As you'll recall, this is a regulated activity permit for a swimming pool to install a 16 by 34 in-ground pool within the wetland review area. We did a site walk back in March, I think. And this application was carried over from our April meeting and has been, if you noticed, it has been revised. So do we have someone here to talk about what they've done?
Yes, the property owner is here. We just jumped to the top to raise his hand. Matthew Christoph, as well as, I believe it's Michael Martocci, who is the pool contractor. Is that correct? We have poolscapes?
That's what I remember.
Okay, let me get Michael. There he is.
Okay. It's great to see you. Oh, you're muted. So if you guys can just kind of walk through, looks like there's some relatively significant changes since the last time. So it'll be helpful to kind of step through that if you could.
Definitely. So thank you for having us on here. And based on the April meeting, you guys gave us a lot of really great feedback and help. Number one was recommending that we get an engineer and survey provided, because the original survey, and I hesitate to use the word site plan because it was kind of very simple, but the survey was almost 25 years old. So since then, we had a professional survey and engineer provide us with an updated plan, as I'm sure you've had an opportunity to look over. One of the major issues when you did the site walk that you had voiced was the number of trees that were going to be taken down within the review area. We didn't have an exact number. We thought roughly 12 trees over 6 inches in diameter, but we didn't have an exact number. So between that and the other recommendation of taking a look at our septic system and possibly adjusting that, we spoke with a few different people and spoke with Trent in the health department in Madison, just to see if it would be feasible to make that adjustment. And preliminary wise, everything looks really good. So the new plan reflects a number of things. It reflects an updated site plan with the pool, but also, thank you. So we had an addition that had been added to the house after our original survey had been done. We also had our septic system looked at. So this brings the pool essentially very, very close to the house, as opposed to very, very close to the wetlands as it had been. So we are still within the review area, but as you'll see with the updated wetlands flags that had been marked, this plan puts water's edge at roughly 70 feet away from the wetlands line. And then we will be having to add a little bit to our septic system, but all of that will be moving away from the wetlands. And in this plan, there are only 3 trees that need to be removed, 2 of which are almost out of the review area, and the other is roughly 50 feet away. So very, very little impact in terms of the existing trees and property in terms of what's there between the home and the wetland. Yes, I think it was also voiced that our existing shed wasn't actually on our original site plan or survey. So our plan is to move that out of the wetland review area entirely.
Okay. So just looking at, you don't have a lot of, would you move it to the others? I mean, that's fine. You can, if it's out of the wetland review, we don't need to know where it's going. Should be great.
Yeah.
Are there questions from any of the agency members?
No questions.
I'm impressed with the efforts to relocate. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the recommendations. It was, it definitely gave us an opportunity to really take a look at the property and make some adjustments. And it really, in a lot of ways, has much less impact in, taking down trees and all of that. So, yeah, which is very important to us. So.
That's great. Yes. Just to echo others, it's much appreciated that how much you pulled that away from the wetland, and also to have an easier site plan with more detail is also helpful. Hey, Lee. So I don't know, Lee, you just joined. Did you have a chance to see this application, and do you have any questions, comments? Or, so can you hear me? No. Okay. Well, well, we can let a couple, we'll just give him a second. I guess one question I do have, given all of this activity, and maybe I missed it I don't think I missed it. So do you have a schedule, a proposed schedule or tentative schedule for when you want to do this?
So there are a few steps that need to be taken first. We really are in sort of a holding pattern at this point. Rick D'Amico, who would be doing our septic work, has already worked with the health department in Madison to perform a soil test, which, as I understand it, anytime you're making any adjustments to a septic system, a soil test needs to be performed. So that has already been done. That was done last week. We are awaiting the results, which he said he should have, sometime this week, but we didn't want to move forward with anything else until we had this meeting and we were able to get some feedback or possible approval from you. But the schedule would be to remove the 3 trees that would need to be taken down. The 2 beech trees, if you're looking at the site plan towards the top of the paper, that is essentially where the that first septic arm, the one with the bent, where the arrow and line says septic trenches to be lengthened, that trench would be lengthened roughly 11 feet. And it would go into where those beech trees are currently located. And so the first step would be to have those trees removed, more than likely sometime within the next 3 weeks or so, ideally, based upon our tree guy's schedule. And then after that, the septic work to be performed, ideally, immediately after. So I would say 4 to 5 weeks, sometime in July. And then should all that be on schedule, I would have to refer to Michael Martocci on that, who's doing our pool. But I believe our original plan and hope was to actually have based on his schedule, was to have the pool break ground in late July, August anyhow. So he'd be able to speak to that more clearly based on their schedule and their workload, but ideally doing that work beginning sometime in late July or August.
Okay, so this is for John Delore or Aaron. The septic work isn't part of this application, I assume. Is that separate? Because we really, the application hasn't been revised, the site plan's been revised, but the application wasn't revised. So is that septic work separate?
Yeah, typically it would be separate. I mean, what you're asking is it could be two different applications. One would be to put the pool, and the other one would be to move a septic system that's within a review area.
And I see, oh, go ahead.
But I think you could look at both of these simultaneously as one application, because moving the pool is what I think the agency asked them to do to get away from the wetlands.
Right.
You know, and a consequence of that was to have to relocate the sanitary system. So I think you can look at this as just as one project, one application.
Which is fine with me, given what we've seen and given the description of the septic. I guess the other option would just be to do the septic as a section 13 if we needed more information that's not on this plan. But if there's enough here, I guess we can consider it together. Do any of the other agency members have questions or comments on that aspect of it?
Nope.
No?
No.
Since we just deal with location, I feel, Kia, that this domino effect with the septic moving, I think we can include it here and just make a condition that possible approval does include the relocation of part of the septic.
Okay, which is on the plan right now, currently.
Right. I think it would be appropriate to add that into the resolution, that it includes the septic system.
Okay.
It would also be my recommendation that the agency condition the approval on sedimentation and erosion controls, which are not currently shown on the site development plan. But they should be, and it seems that likely at least at the 50-foot wetland line would be appropriate to contain any disturbance or I don't know, Mike, maybe you can speak to where you may be proposing some stockpiles associated with the pool.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We would be hauling off-site, so any overburden would be taken off-site while we're doing the excavation. There would be no stockpiling.
So no stockpiling. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Matt, I think we can have the engineer simply add, if they want, a silt fence, and Aaron, if you maybe hay bales if you think it's necessary. At least the silt fence, we can add that to the map.
I think just the silt fence, yeah, at least to know to wrap the limits of disturbance would be, in my opinion, just a condition that can be installed.
We can add that to the map, no problem.
And staff can take a look at that before you get started, Mike.
I think the silt fence could just be redlined. Doesn't have to be drawn on by an engineer to save costs.
Thank you.
Any other, those are great suggestions that we can certainly put into our motion. Are there any other comments in the agency? No. Okay. I'll entertain a motion on application 22-15.
Joe Boudreau, I'll make a motion that the commission approve application 22-15, an in-ground pool at 17 Carmel Court. As shown on the current survey with two conditions: one, that a silt fence ENS barrier location simply be drawn on for any future plan submission going forward, and that the relocated section of the septic system be included in this approval, since it is a result of the swimming pool being relocated from its very first proposed location.
I'll second it.
All right, Leah seconded. Any other comment by the agency? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstaining? No? Okay, great. You have, you've got
Was
your,
there opposition?
no, that was my kitty.
Okay.
Your cat was celebrating with us.
So
Thank
great.
you.
So good luck and
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. We're
Well,
really,
and we-
really excited. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your you're taking our recommendations under consideration.
Totally. It's very important to us. So thank you so much.
Great. Well, enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was our one regular meeting item. So we have 3 applications for receipt. And just as a reminder, these are for receipt only. It is our opportunity at this point in time to hopefully you've reviewed these applications and we can decide for all, let's see, 3 that if we want a site walk or a public hearing or whatever. I think site walk, public hearing are the 2 options that we could add on to these. So for our first application 22-23, 15 Prospect Street, we have an application to do some pretty extensive remodeling, convert an existing house into a pool house, add on to an existing structure, raise the house to comply with FEMA, also install a pool patio and do landscaping. There were some very detailed plans that went along with this. I guess my inclination would be to do a site walk, given how extensive this is. Are there other thoughts? Differing
I agree
thoughts?
with that. This is Lee. I agree with that. I found the plans kind of complicated. I couldn't really
Yeah,
figure them out. So I don't know whether now is the time to talk about it or after the site walk.
go ahead.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that it'll hopefully, and this is where it's helpful is it may be, this is where a site walk will be helpful because we'll have the owner, and it looks like Michael Harkins on this to walk us through, hopefully have a map that we can, maybe a full-size map at the site where we can kind of walk through the detail. There's a lot going on in this application for sure.
Yeah, I had a hard time finding the wetland boundaries and because there's so many lines on
Yeah.
the application, I guess, but
Yeah, it's pretty dense.
Right.
So anybody else have any objection, I guess, to a site walk? Okay, well, that of course is always a great opportunity to see you all in person.
yes.
So can look on the positive side. Do we have to vote on this or can we just schedule, you can just schedule a site walk?
Just schedule.
You can take them.
Well, it is,
Why don't you take a motion
Yeah.
to do it? Just,
it is scheduling a meeting, so
yeah.
Okay, so anybody want to move?
I move we do a site walk of application 2223 15 Prospect Street.
I'll second. I'll get to second. All right, all in favor of our site walk? Excellent. Anybody opposed? Great. All right. Okay.
Lee, you're
So-
throwing me off. I don't know why there's 2 of you.
What's that?
I know, he's
There's
like,
2 of you on the screen. I don't know why. but
Well,
you're
that's
throwing me
because
off
I-
a little bit here.
That's because I had trouble signing in. signing.
I'm
in.
afraid to get rid of one of you.
I may
Do
be,
it.
I may be signed in twice, so.
That's okay. This will give us, it'll just keep us busy. Okay, the second application is
Sorry.
22-24, 154 Race Hill Road. More construction, so a front porch, a bump out of a kitchen, an addition, and a deck in a wetland review area. And I guess my recommendation here, or my suggestion here, is the same. Again, there's a lot going on in the regulated activity, near the regulated activity. There, I guess for Race Hill, the site plan was, I guess, the opposite. It was more, much less dense with respect to the information. So it could be helpful. And this is in consultation, chatting with Aaron and John. I was asking, for recommendations. And this is something to think about as well. But they could include, there isn't any topography that I could see,
Right.
or sedimentation erosion control measures. It was limited with respect to where everything was going to go. So I think it was kind of the opposite of what we saw for the prospect, where there's so much going on site plans. This one, I think the applicant maybe could add some more detail.
Yeah, Kayla, if
Yes.
I may, I actually spoke to the owner today and sort of gave him a heads up that the agency was probably going to ask for a few things, before the next meeting.
Mhm.
And, there's a reference map, reference made to a map on that plan that
Right.
he needs to produce to the agency before the next meeting. And he can do that. He will do that. He just didn't have it at the time.
Okay.
He also needs a map with topo, ENS, more detail, and maybe provide some photos of what's going on. But I also suggested that the agency would ask for a site walk, and he was totally in favor of that. So
Okay.
yeah, I pretty much brought him up to speed of what I think he's going to need for the next meeting, as well as the site walk. So everything that you said, I conveyed to him actually this
Oh,
afternoon.
okay. Well, great. All right. So, all right. So we need to make,
Keola, can I ask a point? I am essentially a neighbor. I don't really know the applicant, but is that an issue in terms of a conflict or not?
my understanding for conflicts, but Aaron and John can correct me, is, well, I recused myself from the Madison Land Trust because I'm on the board. And then I realized, like, this is a small town, but I've been, one measure of conflict was if you go to their birthday parties, if you're that close, but I don't know. That I thought-
Or does their taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're going to the birthday party or doing their taxes, yes, but but Aaron, I don't know. It's being a neighbor, so a neighbor might be different. I don't know. Or John?
I would think if there's a history, because he's stating he doesn't know them well, but if there's a history of 2 years ago, they had a fence dispute, that could be an issue, but Bob is saying he hardly knows them, so I would think he's safe.
They're across the street, so no
Oh,
land
across the
or
street.
line disputes, but I just didn't know because,
You're okay.
depending upon the nature of the, nature of the application, it's not going to affect my property, but I don't know. I just don't want to have a perception of some kind of conflict.
Kayla?
Yeah.
I think you could ask Bob if he can be objective, with this application, or does he feel like, there's a conflict of interest? If he's comfortable with it, and there's no nexus to any relationship, I don't see why he couldn't participate. But that's a question that you could ask Bob if could be objective.
Okay. So Bob, it sounds like you're across the city, so you're not.
Yes, I can be objective. I mean, if
Okay.
that's the question. Yeah.
Yes, that is the question. Okay. All right. Great. Then you're on board.
I'm wondering whether it'd be a good idea for Bob Delore just to ask him, just to call call the applicant and say, one of the board members lives across the street, do you consider that a conflict? And if they say, because they're the ones that are going to complain about it if the decision doesn't come out their way. And, you know, John can say, John or whoever calls him can say that he's, you know, described the relationship like Bob did and that he said he could be objective, and we just want to make sure that you view it the same way, you know, and then we can kind of head any problems off at the pass. It's just an idea.
Thank you. Well, ultimately, it is Bob's decision whether or not he would like to recuse himself if he feels a conflict.
That's
No,
fine.
Lee, I think that's actually probably, if John feels comfortable asking, I have no problem with that, or I would be for that. So, you know, again, I think sometimes it's perception, and it would only happen if the decision didn't go their way. So I have no problem with, or actually would, if John was comfortable with it, to encourage that kind of, you know, conversation. At least get it on the record, you know.
I don't know, is that okay with you, John, or is that an extra phone call? Or, I mean, I could reach out as well, I guess.
No, I have no, you know, problem reaching out. I agree with Aaron, though. I think it's really a decision that Bob makes. I mean, basically, he's just, you know, lives across the street. I don't perceive that as a conflict of interest, but that's up to Bob. And if the agency so desires, you know, I work at your service, so I have no problem calling him. If that's what you desire, I will do that.
Are we going to have a problem getting a quorum if Bob can't, if he does have a conflict?
We should,
I would doubt it.
No, I don't think so.
no,
Yeah, so I think there's no harm. I mean, in my business, we deal with conflicts all the time, and the best way to get the conflicts waived is before there's any controversy, you know, so.
okay.
And,
Well-
and believe me, I don't have any problem abstaining, you know.
I think if that's the case, Lee, I'd rather send him an email and get a response, you know, that way. So at least I have a record of it. If it's,
That's fine too. That works. That works.
Okay.
That's probably even better.
Yeah, that's actually, that is better to have a written track record. Okay. So we'll do that. But in the meantime, if we can make a motion on a site walk for this application 22-24. I'll make a motion. I never do. So I'll do one. I'll make a motion that we do a site walk for application 22-24, 154 Race Hill Road.
I second.
Excellent. All right. I think we've had lots of discussion and last chances. All right. All in favor of this site walk? Raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Moving right along. Okay. So this is application 22-26, 353 Boston Post Road. This is a bigger application, as undoubtedly you noted from the application package. It's essentially 21 homes with, you know, activity in the regulated activity area. So in this case, I am going to throw out there that this probably is going to be similar to our Cottage Road and the ledges with respect to, it's bigger. So I'm going to suggest that it is goes to public hearing. And if we, you know, with respect to, there's different categories of how we can recommend an application for public hearing. So this one can be based upon significant activity. So that's section 2.1 II, where proposed activities may have a major effect or significant impact on wetlands or watercourses that may cause measurable turbidity, siltation, sedimentation, etc. So I am going to, I guess, kind of strongly recommend, especially given our past history with these types of applications, that we schedule a public hearing. And I guess I'll just finish because I checked in again with John and Aaron, and staff is also recommending given the scope of this project, that we suggest that the applicant comply with section 7.6, where we do what I think we've talked about in the past, where we have the applicant hire professional consultants, including a licensed engineer, professional wetland scientist, to assist in the review of this application. And there are different ordinances that come into play here. And I'll just read these out for the record, that per town ordinance, chapter 15, section 15-2A, the significant activity application shall require an additional $175 fee, and consultant fees and expenses shall be made in accordance with section 15.15-2B. This is the case where we're hiring third-party consultants. And given that, and I'm just recommending this, and we can of course discuss, we can, if we decide that this is the path we want to go, public hearing plus having third-party consultants assist in review of the application, then we would push ideally this out to August 1st, which is 65, within our 65-day window for hearing the application. And of course, schedule a site walk. So I said that all really quickly. Hopefully,
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I understand. So our consultants would be what, soil scientists and what else?
an engineer.
An engineer.
Because
So
we're
the applicant would have one, and then we have one to review it, I guess is what.
a
what-
wetland scientist and an engineer. And this
Okay.
gets us where we haven't been on some of these previous applications where I think it would have aided us greatly.
No, I agree.
Have, and it's in our town, it's in our town regulations, it's within our purview to request this. And having, doing this at the get-go on receipt of the application makes sense for everyone concerned, I think.
So the
Now,
scope of their
would-
work, their
Sorry.
scope would be, sorry, Joe, their scope would be
It's okay.
just to sit in on the meetings then, I guess, and then consult with us after the meetings, or we're gonna have them do any independent work.
Well, go ahead, Erin.
Sure, I can answer that a little bit for you, Lee. So at times, and this is the statutes do allow for land use agencies to hire outside professional consultants
Yeah, I think
for a
it's a
number
great
of
idea.
reasons. Some may be just the ability or time or limitations that we may have within our own engineering departments to be able to dedicate the time needed to adequately review and make recommendations on larger scale projects. So, and also without a wetland scientist on staff to help guide the agency, being able to hire an outside wetland scientist is also beneficial. And so, yes, the town basically goes out, requests some proposals from a few different consulting firms, and brings back some recommendations to the commission so that we can decide who you'd like to hire. They would be reviewing the proposed drawings, the site development plans, and reviewing all the reports and supplemental information that's submitted. They also, in the scope of services, you can request their presence at your meetings as well to be able to participate fully in the public hearing process.
I think it's a great idea, and I'm just curious. Is there a way that we can hire them to be, I don't know, like on retainer or something, so we use the same people every time, or do we have to go? We might get 2 or 3 of these a year, I guess, and whether or not we have to hire them one-off or should we just leave that up to you and John to figure out?
Well, currently the town does not have an on-call engineer service. We do have some available through our regional planning, our regional council of governments. There is a list of on-call.
Okay.
So at this point, we would have to send an individual, a request out,
Okay.
an RFP out. But that's something, depending on the load that comes through for developments, that's something that the town as a whole would consider.
I think it's a great idea, personally, but
We had something similar in Guilford.
Yeah.
When I worked in Guilford, we had.
Would these
So-
consultants also walk and check the wetland line?
Delineate so they would be reviewing what is provided. So the wetland scientist, if there was a discrepancy or a question, they may raise those questions for the applicant's professional, but they wouldn't necessarily be doing investigative work on the property.
But would they walk the property, like do a site walk as well? Or are they just going to be basing their recommendations on?
I guess that depends on what the scope of services are decided by the commission.
Okay. Because just like with us walking a site and assessing, with our varied background in wetlands, it can be helpful, probably for the wetland scientists most of all, to if they have a chance to look. But that can be in the future.
yeah, my guess is they probably wouldn't do it unless they're allowed to walk the site,
Okay.
or they'd be reluctant to, as an engineer, they'd be reluctant to, I think, probably. So
Yeah, there's no way a soil scientist on our side could dispute a thing if they weren't in the field.
yeah, so
Right. And
So
I don't know that there's anything to dispute at this
No,
point.
it's just-
That's
no.
hypothetical, but yes, we can explore that, whether or not. they-
does Aaron, does the agency have to get involved in the details of, drafting their scope of work and, that
Staff
sort of
can,
thing?
staff can handle that.
Yeah, okay.
For the agency. But I do think an engineering review would be beneficial given the workload in our current department. And
I
again,
agree.
the wetland scientist, as well as if the commission decides indeed that this would be, this proposal would be considered a significant activity.
It's definitely a significant activity, it looks like to me.
Yeah. So, John or Bob or Joe, anything you want to add to this, to, having a site walk, but in addition to this, a public hearing and getting third-party licensed engineer and wetland scientists.
One item I just wanted to add also, Kealoha, is that if the agency decides to hold, to do a site walk, if you chose to push that into July, closer to the actual opening of the public hearing, that may allow for time to get a consultant on board who may be able to come to that meeting as well.
Okay, which would be great.
Personally, I think it's a great idea, but,
Okay.
I mean, we gotta monitor the cost, obviously, and the benefits, but I think having somebody that, can devote concentrated, focused time to any of the issues that come up, that would look at it from the town, strictly from the town's perspective, is always, valuable.
Yeah. I think our agency doesn't have to worry about costs. We're going to let John and Aaron worry about
That's
costs.
right.
We're just going to vote on this.
Right.
Well,
So just to highlight that is in the ordinance, the town's ordinance. It does spell out that process, and those consulting fees are passed along to the applicant.
Right. So we're not paying for that. Joe, comments?
nope, I support hiring experts on our side. And I think the only question, I'll have to admit, I haven't seen the site plans yet, but we're receiving tonight, correct?
Yes.
So doesn't that kick in, because you mentioned something about 65 days. So if we receive it and schedule a public hearing, aren't we under the 30, 60, 30 timeline?
I believe that we can push this to the 65-day for the public hearing.
Yes, well, we definitely can add for extension time. We can do that.
You have 65 days to open a public hearing.
Right. If we vote to have a public hearing, then we have 65 days to do that. And that's just,
Okay.
that'll kick us off.
That would get you to
Okay.
the August 1st meeting.
Right.
Sounds good.
And John, Matthew, did you have any comments? Just
I pretty much agree with everything that's been said.
Okay. All right. So this is definitely one where we'll make a motion and vote because we love doing that. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I will. I move that we schedule a public hearing, hire independent consultants, and do a site walk of application 22-26. And the agency, the staff will deal with the details of, I don't know whether this needs to be in a motion, details of hiring the consultant excuse me, just for a second, let me, what do you say, Aaron, what do we need to have in the motion, if anything, about the scheduling? You said something about pushing it out to July 1st?
The date of the public hearing,
Okay.
August
Oh, the
1st.
site walk, okay, I'm sorry, the site walk.
Would be recommended, yes, and a site walk in July, which staff can coordinate with you and the applicant
Okay.
for maybe the second or third week.
That
in
doesn't need to
July.
be in the motion. Should I restate the motion? I move that we schedule a public hearing, schedule a site walk, and have the town retain independent engineer and soil scientist to assist us in the application of application 2226 353 Boston Post Road.
Okay.
Second.
All right. You got a second? Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of this motion? Raise your hand, say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. All right. Excellent. So we have 3 opportunities to see each other, which would be lovely. Walk around outside. Hopefully it'll be sunny. All right. So now we go on to section 13. So our first section 13, and I guess we can just run through these and John, you can tell us about them, but they're already done, I assume. We have 22-14, 27 Scenic Road. This was a shed, and I believe this is one that we had discussed a couple of times. And
Yes.
it looks like they finally found a spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually went out there and staked out where the shed would go.
Okay.
And it didn't conflict with rocks or boulders or trees or anything on that side. And I think, I don't know if Aaron or somebody could pull that up, but there's I had my sketch added to the application this afternoon. It's at the side of the house. And it's about 73 feet from the closest flag of the
Okay.
wetland. Yeah, there, that's my sketch. And I went
Okay.
out in the field and actually staked that, thank you, Aaron, and staked that shed. It's 12 feet off of the house. It's 10 by 14. It's 73 feet from the closest flag. And if you look at that new system, it mounds up. So it's all grass, but between the shed and the wetlands is the obstacle, if you will, of the mounded sanitary system.
Okay.
No trees were coming down. They removed a little bit of brush. Mostly it was invasive. They're showing a silt fence around that. And I think that's a minimal impact on the wetlands with its new revised location.
Okay.
I favor section 13 all the way.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So that's great. Okay, so our next section 13 is 22-20, 959 Boston Post Road. This is, constructing a garage on a slab 52 feet from the closest flag on a flat area above a sloped wetland.
And if we can, Aaron, can you get that one up? Thank you. This is an existing property, and the proposed garage is in the back of the property on a flat gravel, existing flat gravel plateau, if you will. There's actually two wetlands, one to the north and one to the south. The one at the north is 64 feet. It's not even on their property, but you can see that the topography is that the property is on a plateau and it slopes to the wetlands. The ENS is all up above on the top and before the tree line. As you can see behind that ENS, there's a tree line that's not going to be disturbed. No trees will be coming down. Any excess material would be removed from the site. And they are going to do a slab, so there would be a frost wall around that. But I also didn't see this as an impact with to the wetlands, below the plateau. So I did this as a section 13.
Is a driveway proposed or is it existing already?
It's existing already. It's hard to see on here, but
Yeah.
it's all, the whole thing is gravel. It says,
Cape Drive,
yeah, it's hard to see.
and then this is all.
I see it. It says
Yeah.
gravel area below the garage.
This is all
Yeah.
gravel.
Okay. Well, that sounds fine. Any questions for John of that one?
One other thing Joe might add is on that ridge between, the plateau and the wetlands is a split rail fence. So
Right, I
that's-
saw that on the,
Okay,
okay, yeah, I saw that they had the split rail, so I guess that's good as well. Okay, so 22-21, 9 Sperry Lane. So this is a permit to build a 8 by 8 foot above ground pool deck, 50 feet from the closest wetland flag.
yeah, this is one that you looked at, the agency looked at this,
Yeah.
I think probably, I think it was like in
been a while.
June of 2021.
Yeah.
And I actually did the pool as a section 13. I brought a bunch of photographs out, and it's really flat until you get to where the wetlands is below a bulkhead,
Okay,
if you remember.
yeah,
I asked at that time if we could do this as a section 13, and you agreed to let me do that as a section 13. This little 8 by 8 deck behind that is further away. They're going to hand dig the posts. Any excess material would be removed. I didn't see it any more egregious than putting the pool in. So I just did this as a section 13 also with no
Okay.
impact.
And it's right, it's on the other side.
Yeah. If it was closer, I would have you look at it, but
Right. Okay, questions? Anybody from the agency have questions on this last section 13? No? Okay, thank you, John. So it looks like we have a discussion, request for extension approval for 67 Boston Post Road, East River Farms condominium development.
Email Coach Oster.
I don't know if I've done an extension before, so.
So I can explain a little bit to you. This was an approval. 67 Boston Post Road is East River Farms, which is located almost, it's on the western end of the Post Road. Trying to think, it's, I guess, diagonally across from Zhang's
Yes.
Chinese restaurant, next to the property that has, it's a large warehouse set back on the parcel.
Is this the parcel that already has a bunch of,
Yes,
housing?
residential units.
yes, and were some of these affordable housing as well?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So this is an affordable development that was approved in April of 2009.
Right, okay,
So I believe that the applicant was before you last year, likely. They were before planning and zoning, seeking an extension of the permit. So last spring, the applicant sought, the statutes were written in the way that any application and approval that occurred prior to July 1st, 2011, that had not expired as of, so this was a statute that came out in response to the recession of 2008, 2009. So basically allowed for an extension of site plan approvals and wetland approvals. So that allowed for a 9-year permit to be valid for 9 years, with the ability for the commission to grant one or more extensions for an additional 5 years, for a total of no more than 14 years from the original date of approval. So that's what we were operating under the last time an extension was granted. This project has been constructed in phases. There's a phase 1 and a phase 2. There has been some concern from residents living on the property. The concerns include a lack of stormwater infrastructure installed, outstanding site improvements. The stormwater improvements required a detention basin, which was near the inland wetland at the rear of the property, and that work had not yet been completed, despite the fact that multiple buildings were constructed and new additional impervious area was also built. So John and I have been working with the developer and their engineer to go through a punch list of what's outstanding on the project, and they're working to complete many of these items. And I'm pleased to report that most of the drainage has been installed since we began meeting with them about a month ago. But there's still some work underway, and that includes an additional phase 2 of the project that fronts on Wildwood Avenue. So in July of 2021, Public Act 21-163 further amended the statutes to allow for additional time to be granted for site plan approvals. So now where we had a maximum of 14 years, now the statute, in light of the COVID pandemic, has allowed for applications to expire not less than 14 years, after the date of such approval, and further allows the agency to grant one or more extensions of time up to an additional 5 years, so that the permit shall be valid for no more than 19 years from the date of approval. So that it extends the project even further, which some clearly staff and residents had concerns, and Planning and Zoning Commission had also concerns as far as granting continuous extensions without some assurance that these site improvements would actually be completed for the residents that live there and for the protection of our resources. So that being said, the Planning and Zoning Commission has had this on their agenda as well, and staff had suggested that perhaps prior to the next certificate of zoning compliance for one of the units, that the applicant needs to have site improvements, drainage, and paving of the shared driveway completed. If they're unable to make those improvements prior to this next closing, they may offer a financial guarantee for the cost of the improvements plus 10%. So that way, if there is by chance, a problem with the project, that the town does have the ability to call the bond and complete those improvements. This is an affordable housing development. We do have a vested interest in seeing this to completion. So That's not necessarily, if we have Planning and Zoning Commission already going that route, I don't believe that's something that the Inland Wetlands Commission needs to handle. I guess what I'm telling you is that the commission is obligated to grant an extension for one more year. That would bring you to April 15th, 2023. And then I would recommend that 1 year extension, and then requiring the developer to return to you with an update as to the status of the project prior to granting any additional extensions for those following 5 years. That portion is at your discretion. So I just kind of wanted to let you know what we're dealing with in the status of the project, and that we'd really like to see this through to the end.
And there have been no changes, correct?
The applicant may, as the engineers are out on site and they had done an as-built of the improvements that were done thus far with respect to drainage. Some changes had been made on site by the contractor. So I can't rule out that they won't be returning to you for a site plan modification. They may be minor modifications, but you may see them back.
Okay,
So the
So-
extension is both for the improvements and for phase two, the phase two portion of the project. Is that correct?
Yes, phase two, it was approved as one property.
Right.
It is one property. So
Right.
yes, it would include both.
They're just building it in phases. I got it. Okay.
Yes.
okay, so, and given the background you've provided, I think that's a great recommendation that we give our required 1 year extension and see how it goes. Because of course we want it not only, we want it completed as they have said they would complete it. I remember this project I was on Conservation Commission at the time, and I had wondered what they were doing with the phase two, since I never saw it get built. So I guess that's where we're at. So so if we approve this 1 year extension, that's all we need to do tonight, and then they would, if they need anything else, they have to come back.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay.
they would have to provide to staff, and we're waiting for the engineer. They have, raw data from the field. They're working on an as-built. And they'll be following up with a meeting with staff to kind of go over what's been installed and
Okay.
what changes, if any, need to be made to the plan.
Okay,
So yes, my recommendation would be to grant the extension to April 15th, 2023.
okay. All right, well, I can make a motion to grant an extension for, I'm looking up, is there an application number?
I'll second.
Well,
I don't have the number.
yeah,
I'm
I'm just
sorry.
gonna
No
say,
no motion yet.
yeah, I'm gonna move that we grant the extension for 67 Boston Post Road, the East River Farms condominiums until April 15th, 2023.
I'll second it.
All right. Any more discussion, comment? All right, all in favor? Raise your hand, say aye. Any opposed? Abstaining? Excellent. Okay. Well, that was actually interesting to get the background on that. Okay, so I hope everyone did. I forgot to send a reminder. Are reading the minutes from February 7th, 2022, as well as last month, May 2nd, 2022. So I will start with the February minutes. So I did read through them. Again, because of the way we amend this, I don't know if this is something we care about. Well, there's several things. So this is on page 2 on the Opening Hill Road application, kind of halfway down that first paragraph. Basically, there's a couple sentences that say that the applicant's going to come back to the commission for approval for this detailed house. There's a couple sentences in there that are redundant, and I highlighted them, but I think given the way we do our amendments, that's probably not a big deal. It just says the same thing 2 different ways in 2 sentences. I had a question though on there's another sentence that starts furthermore. It says, furthermore, because of the re-subdivision, they had to do soil testing for the existing house and prepare B100A system. Is that that's referencing a specific system, septic system? I just want to make sure. No.
A B100A, that's a review. It's a 19-B100A. That's the
Okay.
reference to the health code.
Okay. I wondered if there's something left out. So it looks like there's the 19 is left out as that.
They're basically, they're referred to as B100.
Okay, then that's fine.
But that's basically meaning that they've gone through that review process with the health department.
Okay, and then down the next sentence, it says something part of the activity, and then it says they propose to install a wattle along the edge of the driveway, like wattle, like a duck waddles. And I may be missing something, but I'm not sure what that is.
Like a silt sack.
Okay, so that is okay. I just haven't heard it called that. I was like, oh, a waddle.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
cute.
That is, yeah, I recall that being on the plan.
Okay.
Like
That was
a
method
big
of
tube,
control.
big tube.
Yeah, no, I get what they were. I didn't realize that that's what they were called. But that, I think, I'm skimming through. That's all I highlighted, and those are minor, and I don't think they require any revisions. Does anybody else have anything from the February meeting minutes?
The only thing I had, and I'm not an egotist in any way, but where it says for application 2201 and you recused yourself, the minutes probably just should have said that the vice chair presided at that time.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay. That is fair, because I disappear and all of a sudden you're in charge.
In your crown.
Okay, so that's a good reasonable one to add in. Anybody else have? Oh, that's so great. So let's vote on this so we can get rid of February. Finally.
I'll make a motion that the commission approves the February minutes as written and as mentioned by us for clarifications.
All right, I'll second.
I'll second.
You can second.
We're an agency, we're not a commission.
Okay, so the agency minutes. All right. So all in favor of approving the agency minutes from February 7th, 2022, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, excellent. Finally got our backlog done. That is great. All right, so our meeting minutes from May 2nd. I did not have anything
I
that
didn't see anything either.
Okay, did anybody else? I thought they were excellently done.
I must abstain. I wasn't here then.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to abstain too. I was away on vacation.
Okay. All right.
I move we approve the minutes from May 2nd, 2022.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Raise your hand. That's a three.
Aye.
That's
Aye.
great. All right. Nobody's opposed. Nobody. We have 2 abstentions, I guess, Joe and Bob. All right. Yes. Nicely done. We got rid of all of our minutes.
Yep.
I guess those would be my remarks. I don't have any other remarks except I think it'll be great that we're doing these site walks. I like the new process that, just being more thoughtful about receiving our applications and planning site walks and public hearings. I think that's working out well.
Do you think we'll be able to fit all three? Did we say three? We said three, right?
Well, it's
And-
3, but I think what we want is the Boston Pro, the Barbary Hill one in July, but we'll need the other 2 be ahead of time for our July meeting.
That's true. Okay,
Oh,
yep, I got it.
The Prospect one and Race Hill, we should schedule this month,
Okay, yeah, that works.
sometime before July 11th.
I think that's our date.
Yeah, because I think July 4th is a Monday.
I think we get pushed back 1 week.
Yeah, we
Wow.
get pushed back a week. So July 11th. So that actually gives us a lot of time to schedule those 2. I know people might be going on vacation out of town.
Right, right.
But yeah, so we need 2 before the July meeting, and then we'll schedule the next one after, in the hopes that we have maybe a soil scientist come out with us or whatever.
Excellent. Yep, excellent.
So those are my comments. John, comments?
I would just like to welcome our new member to the agency. Maybe she wants to say a little bit about, introduce herself.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry, I should have done that too. So please.
My name is Anna. I am a wetland scientist. I've been in the field for 12 years. And I bounced around the United States doing work, West Coast, East Coast, mid states. And most of my projects have been, superstructures and things like that. So I'm excited to settle into Connecticut and learn the municipal way of things and kind of go on the micro scale now. So I'm excited to be here. I'll learn the ropes, and I am curious, as an alternate, am I a member, or do I vote, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can ask questions at will through any meeting, and when there's deliberation, you can partake, but when it comes to a vote, you must be seated. And usually, since we have 7 voters, it's pretty good that you'll be seated.
Yeah. So how many
What does
people?
that mean? What do you mean be seated?
Well, for an alternate to vote, it means that I thought that it means that we need, if we're not meeting quorum or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we don't meet quorum, then Anna would be our quorum. Is that
Or
right?
if someone is absent.
Yeah.
Right.
there's a
Someone's
vacancy,
absent. Right.
they-
Okay.
Yes, an alternate can be seated as well, to fully participate in the meeting.
Right. But it also, what it also means is, in order to be kind of on call for any absences, you would need to be there or watch these meetings before the next meeting, just so you are up to speed, which we all have to do if we're going to miss a meeting and then want to vote on something.
Can I ask another question? I guess, because I'm still a little confused. How many regular members do we have now? 5?
I think there's 7.
No, I don't think so. Right?
I think you have vacancies.
Yes, we have vacancies.
Yeah.
So we would have 7, but we
A
have,
full, yes.
but
That's correct,
we
John.
don't have that many. We have
Yeah.
everyone's here except Martin, right?
Yeah.
So we
So
have
that's-
one.
He's a regular
1,
member.
You
2,
have-
3, 4.
I know, we're counting the screens.
You
We have
have one
6.
vacancy.
We have 6. And is Martin a regular member or is he an alternate?
He is
No,
a regular
He's a
member,
regular member.
Yeah,
so that would leave you 1 vacancy
So we have 6 regular members, right?
and 1 alternate, correct?
And 1 alternate. So if one of those 6 is absent, then can Anna vote then? Right? I just want to make sure I understood.
Yes,
Yeah.
Anna could be seated to participate,
Vote.
And vote,
yes, and vote,
right?
yes.
So, okay, good.
So for example, for today, we're missing 1 person, so I guess I should have voted.
Right.
Yeah, we
That's
could
what I'm
have,
trying to
You
understand.
could've seated
yeah,
you.
so I guess we could have, sorry, we could have seated you, but you were here and participating. So for all the applications we discussed, you would be ready to go in July.
Okay.
If you get seated, so if
Right.
someone's missing in July, we could
That's
just seat you at the beginning of the meeting. And then because you have already been at this meeting, you would be good to go, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
And she
Great.
wasn't here for the first one, when we first heard that. For the pool.
Oh, the pool. Oh, right, yeah. So not the pool one, but everything, but that's done. So everything
Yeah,
else,
that's right.
yeah.
But
So
she
we're
could
all,
have voted on that today anyway.
that's right. That's right. You could have voted on that, but everything else is a clean slate. We got
That's
everything
right.
pushed off and we're starting all over.
Yep. Exactly
So
right.
much fun.
Sounds good.
So, Anna, just to, for your reference, the inland wetlands regulations are available on the town's inland wetland agency website. So that, as well as copies of our application forms to familiarize yourself. And if you have questions, John and I are also available to answer any of your questions. I know you've been in contact with John previously. So,
Yep. Okay.
Great.
And does
Welcome.
that mean I also attend site visits, or is that for members?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So because, yes, so you should do everything that you can. Because you'll, like for these site walks coming up, you'll want to do that so that if you're seated in July, you would be able to
Right.
say, yes, I did the site walk. And I can, you'll have done everything. So yeah, basically you should just consider yourself, come to everything.
Right.
And if we're missing somebody, you'll get seated.
Okay, got it. All right, that sounds good.
Good.
Excellent. Well, it's very exciting to have new people.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Yeah. So, and John, any other comments?
No, that's it.
All right, Anna. So you are in for the most favorite motion of the evening. Does someone want to introduce Anna to this motion?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Both of me.
All
both of
Aye.
you.
And it's not that we don't like seeing each other, so we're adjourned, but it is, done. All right, so we'll wait.
Good seeing everybody.
Yeah, it was good seeing
All
you.
right.
So John, I assume you'll be in touch about sidewalks.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do
Nice
two
meeting
of
you.
them on one day.
Yeah,
and
we'll
then-
do two. We'll do the two, and then
Yeah,
we'll
and
do
then we'll
the
do the
one.
one. Yeah.
All right. Enjoy your evening. Nice and short.